Okay, so without further ado, I'm Leti Terrones. I'm a librarian here at Cal State L.A. And this is Library Live, research skills workshops for our students. They happen every other Tuesday, more or less. And today's workshop is going to be about primary sources, archives, and other special treasures that we have here at Cal State L.A. So I'm very happy to introduce my colleague, Azalea Camacho. Azalea is the head of special collections and archives at Cal State L.A. And if you've ever been in the second building, that other building, the Palmer building of the library, the one that's kind of across the street from the main library, on the second floor, you've probably seen, yes, Library South. Okay, yes. If you've ever been into Library South, on the second floor, there's a really wonderful office space that has like glass windows. That's our special collections. And Azalea's here to tell us all about what's contained in there and what sort of work do they do there. And most importantly, how can you as a student use primary sources and also archival materials and special collections materials to level up your research. Okay, thank you, Azalea.
Thank you. Thank you. And apologies for being a little late. But we're going to move on with our session. So I have a PowerPoint that I'd like to share with you. Letty, can you let me, it says that I can't share my screen. Okay. Okay, can everybody see my screen? You can put your thumbs up or say that you can see it in the chat.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So today I'm going to give you an introduction of special collections and archives, some of the things that you can find here, and then I'm going to move my slideshow to the next. Oh, give me a second. So as Letty mentioned, my name is Azalea Camacho. I'm the head of special collections and archives. I've been here at Cal State L.A. for about 10 years now. And I also I'm part of the CSU system. I did my undergrad at Cal Poly Pomona and got my master's degree in library science at San Jose State. So I've been a student in the CSU system and now kind of full circle and work here at Cal State L.A. And so the topics that we'll talk to or that I'll cover today is give you an overview of special collections and archives, what we are, what we do, our mission, go over some subject areas, some collections, and then that we have, and then go over our website, go over some user guidelines and handling, and then we're going to do an activity. And also too, if you have any questions as I go along during this session or this presentation, feel free to include them in the chat. So yeah, this isn't meant to be like a formal presentation, so feel free to raise your hand or put any comments in the chat. So first off, I want to talk about what the difference is between special collections and archives. So special collections are a cohesive collection of non-circulating research materials held together by provenance or by a thematic focus. And an example of that would be our rare book collection on Mesoamerica and colonial Mexico. So that's a specific collection that we house here in special collections that focus on that specific theme or subject area. And then archives, on the other hand, may contain the similar types of materials or unique materials, but they're more seen as historical records that are established to document the lives of individuals, organizations, and archives are comprised of primary source documents that have been accumulated over a lifetime. So an example of that, what we have here in special collections and archives is our Gloria Arianes papers. And Gloria Arianes was a Brown Beret, and the Brown Berets were a Chicano group or organization that was formed during the late 1960s during the Civil Rights Movement. And Gloria Arianes was part of the Los Angeles chapter, and she was the Prime Minister of Finance. So she did all the finances for the organization. And they also were for educational reform. They fought against the Vietnam War during the late 1960s. And so we have her documents and her papers here at Cal State L.A. And so archives, so that example shows you an archive, but archives are more centered on people and the documents and the information that they create over a lifetime or a period of their lifespan, right? And special collections are curated collections that are specific on a subject area. So that kind of tells you the difference. So archives are tied to people and the information that they create, and special collections are tied to a specific subject area. So they're not necessarily tied to a person and like the records that they created over their lifetime, but they're curated either by a librarian or a donor that donates a collection to a library on a specific subject area. So they're not so tied to the materials, or they didn't live that experience per se. But the archives, those are materials that are centered and created by people. So for instance, another archive that you would think about your family history, your family documents, your family photos. That would be your family history and archive, or family history, and that would be considered your family archive. So does that make sense? So archives are tied to people and the records and information that they create, and special collections are more tied to a specific theme. So it's a curated collection. And those are the two different types of collections or materials that we have in the Special Collections and Archives department. And then we're a department within the library that houses these rare and unique materials and make them publicly available to students and our campus community. And these materials you can't check out like you would other materials, right? So like you can't check out these materials like you would in the circulation desk on the library's first floor in Library North, because these collections are one of a kind and they're rare and unique. And then I see, Letty, you put in a question, can archives be digital photos too, or do they have to be print or physical photos? So archives can be a variety of different things. So they don't need to be like a physical item, right? Because now we take pictures with our phones, or we scan materials with our phones, right? Or we create documents or create like our work assignments, right, on a Word document. And so they were never physical to begin with. And that's called born digital. And when it's born digital, that can also be an archive as well. So like videos on YouTube, you can have a YouTube video archive, you can have an archive on an Instagram. Again, the main focus of archives is they're tied to the people that create them. Not necessarily curated, right? So that's the difference between special collections and archives. And here we have both physical materials and digital items. And feel free to ask any questions or raise your hand or add them in the chat as we go. So the next thing I want to talk about, so when people come to visit special collections and archives, they're looking for primary sources. And primary sources are firsthand evidence related to the time or event you are investigating. And this includes accounts by participants, observers, and a wide range of written, physical, audio, or visual materials created at the time or later by someone with direct experience. So I'm not sure if any of you have heard of the term primary sources before in any of your courses. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But this gives you an overall definition of what they are. So they're firsthand evidence related to, it's like a direct experience. So like if I were to create, if I was an artist and I was to create like a piece of artwork, that would be a primary source of my artwork because I created at a certain time period. Or if I was an artist like in the Chicano movement and I created an artwork in the late 1960s related to the movement because I lived that experience. And if you're studying the Chicano movement, my art piece from that time period would be a primary source. So what's really important about primary sources, if you ever hear that in your classes, is that it really all depends on what you're studying, what makes that a primary source. So you could be studying something from the 1960s, the 2000s, whatever time frame that you're studying, anything created within that time period would be considered a primary source. So now, since I gave you a definition of what primary sources are, and we kind of talked about special collections and archives, what are some examples of primary sources that you can think of? And you can enter those in the chat, or you can raise your hand, or you can unmic yourself and give a couple of examples. Is there any thoughts? Yeah, drawings like from prisons, that would be a primary source. Again, if you're studying prisons or the prison system or the experience of someone in prison from a specific time period, a drawing created from someone in prison would be a primary source. A diary, it could be, it could also be letters, yeah, correspondence. It could be an interview. It could be like a transcript of an interview. It can be an oral history, which is like a recorded interview.
So if it was eyewitness, it would have to be written down.
Yeah, it could be like an eyewitness. So it could be something, it doesn't have to be written down. It could be recorded. So like say like a news, yeah, it could be written down. It could be in any format. But yes, an eyewitness recording can a present day era get recorded in an archive? So you're saying like something in present day? Yeah, if somebody was studying, saying something we recently experienced, right? Like COVID-19. Like if somebody, you know how there's a lot of things on Instagram about, you know, what was like toilet paper not being available in the grocery store, so pictures of the empty shelves, that would be a primary source of COVID-19. That's if you were studying that. TikTok, anything on TikTok would be a primary source. Government documents, for sure, like birth and death certificates, news articles from different periods in time. Yeah, it just so all of those could be primary sources, but it really depends on what you're studying. So if you're, whatever your assignment's about or whatever you're writing about, the time period, anything with direct experience within that time period can be a primary source. So for instance, here's another example, which can be a little confusing because there's also secondary sources, which are they're removed from the direct experience. So something like a math book. Could a math book be a primary source? If you think about it, it possibly can. If you're studying like education in a certain period and looking into textbooks that were created from that time period, and a math book would fit into that. Otherwise, you know, a math book or like a history book might not be, it might be a secondary source or something in that case. But yeah, it all depends on what you're studying. So it's always important to know, you know, if you're in an assignment or in a class, like what's the scope or the time period you're studying and what the subject area is. Anything with somebody experienced or having direct experience within that time frame would be a primary source. So hopefully that all makes sense. If it doesn't, please ask questions or add them in the comments, but great examples. Let me see if there's any messages before I move on. Does it mean self-help graphics in your special collections now, since in the present era that company is now LA County LA Library Workshop? Oh, so yeah, self-help graphics. Yeah, we have self-help graphics posters and some materials. Yeah, some of those would be considered primary sources. It all depends on what you're studying. So even if it's like a company or that still exists today, yeah, it all depends on what you're studying, like with the time period and what you're studying. So we'll move on now to subject areas that we have here in particular in Cal State L.A. Special Collections. So every special collections and archives in different universities or different organizations that have an archive or special collections focus on specific subject areas that make them unique. So for us, we focus on the history and culture of LA, focusing on East LA, Compton, Latin America, Los Angeles public officials. We have some of that were alumni of Cal State L.A. We have some oral histories. We have music, film, poetry, social justice movements, ethnic and immigrant communities, and women of color. But all of that ties into the history and culture of Cal State L.A. and the history and culture of Los Angeles, but the local community of Cal State L.A. And then we also have the university archival materials. So everything related to the history of Cal State L.A. itself. So we're the university archives. So we have the documents that were created by, faculty members, different departments and organizations on campus, student life, everything that documents the history of Cal State L.A. We even have yearbooks, the University Times, all the way from the beginning. So Cal State L.A. started in 1947. So apparently there was yearbooks that were created during that time. So we have the yearbooks. We also have material related to, the mascot. If you didn't know, before our mascot used to be, before 1982, we used to be the Diablos, and now we're the Golden Eagles. So we have like information about that. We also have information about student organizations. So like the Black Student Union, MECHA, different organizations here on campus. And then we also have a specific collecting area that has is the Mesoamerican Colonial Mexico collection. So we have our books within that subject area, and we have personal papers of researchers who specialized in that area. And then we also have artifacts from those time periods, which is quite unique for special collections and archives because we focus more on paper-based items. So like documents, photographs, and like books, but sometimes we have three-dimensional objects, which can be considered artifacts, like museums do. And if you're interested in learning more about Cal State L.A. Special Collections and Archives, you can always visit our website. And I'm gonna give you a little bit of a demo of how to get there from my university library website. So I'm gonna exit out of here. And then let me know if you see my screen, because sometimes, do you see the university library website or do you still see the presentation?
We see the website.
Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure because sometimes, okay, perfect. Sometimes it shows the presentation. So from the university library website, which I think you all are familiar with, here where you find special collections is under research and services. So if you click on the drop-down menu on either of them, you'll find special collections and archives. So you can click on that, and then that will take you to our website. And right now, just so you know, we're revamping and upgrading our website, but this is what it looks like right now. So it'll probably be hopefully more user-friendly once we upgrade it. But this is where you can find information now. So we have our home page, and if you wanted to see what types of collections we have in a listing, you can always look under collections, and here's a drop-down menu. And then we have it separated by university archives. So this is all related to the university and university history, right? Rare and unique books. So this is all of our book collections that we have and special collections and archives. We also have our digital collections and then our manuscript collections. Most of the research that gets done in our special collections and archives here are our manuscript collections. So I'm going to show you that. And manuscript, pretty much when we think of it, or how we think of it or professionals that work in special collections and archives, think of it as non-published materials. So typically what manuscript means is like handwritten. But for us in the archives world, we look at it as anything that's unpublished. So it could be like a three-dimensional object, it could be a poster, it could be, a wide variety of different materials. It doesn't have to be in handwritten material. And then here you see kind of a breakdown of some of the subject areas that we have and kind of how I showed you on that one slide. And then you can click on it and then it tells you some information about the collection and it gives you a link to the collection guide. So you can see what's actually in the collection. And so you see here, again, a title, a description, and then you can click on that. to pull up, here's our East LA archives. You can click on the guide and then it sends you to the Online Archive of California. The Online Archive of California is a database where various California institutions submit their finding aids or their collections to be researched by students like yourselves. And so you can not only search Cal State L.A., you could search all of the contributing institutions, and you can look that up here. So I'm not going to go through over the Online Archive of California, but you can see how many institutions in California contribute their collections here where they're available to you and you can search for them. And we're a contributor as well. So if you wanted to see all of our collections, you can click here where it says home and then Cal State LA. You see all of our listings of our collections. So they're not organized by subject like they are on our website, but you can also search them here as well if you wanted to. So let's go back to the website. See here, our collections are organized more by subject area versus on the Online Archive of California. You can search all of them. And here's a link to it as well, where you can search all of them. And then I'm going to go back to home. And then you can do a little searching if you're interested on the university archives and the types of books we have. This is like a good way to get familiar with the types of collections that we have. And then if you wanted to request for help, say there was in a collection that you could find here and you wanted to know if we have something or if you wanted to request more help, then you can go to request research help for a research consultation. And then this form, we ask you to fill out with your email, your name, your phone number, your address, your state, and then affiliation. So if you're a freshman, you kind of just use it, or wherever you are, or if you're a faculty lecturer, you can use the drop-down menu here. You can include your affiliation, the purpose. So like if it's a class assignment, if you're working on your master's thesis, whatever you're working on. And then we encourage you to put your research topic there. And remember when I mentioned about primary sources, what's really important is the date range that you're looking into. So you want to include the scope or the date range where you're trying to look for primary sources. And then include anything of research that you've done already, if you have, if any. And then you can include here what are the types of items that you found and that you want to find. Like if you're looking for correspondence or oral histories or, videos, you can include that there. And if you have any questions, you can add that there. Then you can include, what time you want to come in. We're open from Monday. We have to change this, but it's Monday through Fridays from 10 to 5 p.m. And then you can pick within increments of, an hour. And then you'll have a research consultation with me, and then I'll follow up with you, to confirm the time you requested, and then you submit it. Also, too, we have another form that you can use, which is request an appointment. And this is so if you found something, because our collections are not only cataloged on the Online Archive of California, but they're also cataloged on OneSearch. So you can find our collections there too. And if you found something that you're interested in, you don't have to do a research or schedule a research consultation. You can go ahead and request for using this form, the item that you want or the rare book that you found, right? And it's the same information you fill out. And some of this you don't have to fill out, but if you want to, you can. The main part is filling out what archival collection and what box number you found in a finding aid. And if you need help with, I'm not going to go over how to look through finding aids, because finding aids are guides to, what's in a collection. You can ask me if you want to look up what it is to look up finding aids later on. You can email me and I'm more than happy to help you go through that process. But you would include a box number, or if it's a rare book, you can include the call number. And then again, same thing, you propose a time and then we contact you within 24 hours to confirm your appointment. And then you can come to our Special Collections and Archives reading room during your appointment, which is on the 2nd floor, Library South, room 2079. We're open from Mondays through Fridays from 10 to 5 p.m. And then you can also use the space for quiet independent study. So if you wanted to find a quiet independent study space, you can come in to use our space too. You don't necessarily have to make an appointment or do research with our collections. Our space is open for you to come and study as well. And then I see, Letty, you have a question here. Do we have gold from Mesoamerica? I had a student wonder about that. I didn't know that. No, I don't think we have. We might have something that's like gold plated, I think. I think we do. Now that I think about it, I think we do. So if they're interested, we're also cataloging all of our artifacts on OneSearch so that you can find them. And you can request them for research if you want. But yeah, I think there might be one that does have gold in it. But that's how you navigate through our website, and you can look at some of our other services, to planning your visit, some research search tools. So I didn't go over a lot how to search through OneSearch, but you can use this to kind of help you search, and you can always contact me. We also have opportunities, so student assistant jobs, internships, volunteer. If you're ever interested in anything like that, you can always contact me as well or look that up here. We also have our contact information here on the home page, so you see our phone number and our general email. Is there any questions about the website that you would like me to expand on, or before I move on? Okay. Uh-huh.
To ask a question about, you were showing us on one of the forms where you're wanting to,
Is it this one?
I think it was that one, and then it has it has sort of like a drop-down menu of all of the different archives
Oh
that
yeah, I think it's this
select
one.
from. Could you show us that list again?
Yeah, so the list coincides with all of those collections that you saw in the Online Archive of California. So this is the list that you can say I mean, I can show you a little bit if you want to know how to kind of navigate and be able to, yeah, just so like if you were to go to the home, and you know how we went to collections. Oh wait, I'm going to go to manuscript again, and say you wanted to look at this one, right? The first one, the Central American, and you click here and you're like, oh, that sounds interesting, right? I want to see what's in there. It's not taking me to the Online Archive of California. Hold on. Or my computer's slow. There you go. So it takes it to this listing. So the listing that's on that form, let me go to the university library. So I can kind of do a double. Let's go to special collections, and then we're gonna go to this form, right? So the listing that you see on this form, where is it? Oh, here it is. The listing that you see on this form here is the same listing that's here. So say if you wanted to look, we're looking at the Central American Solidarity L.A. Network collection, you can click on that. It brings up the record of the collection, and it gives you a description. It tells you how large the collection is. To find the finding aid, which is the guide to what's in the collection, you can click on additional collection guides, and here's the link, and it pulls up this PDF. So let me know if you could see it. Can you see it? Okay. So yeah, this is the finding aid of how we organize the collection. So when you do the drop-down menu, so if you wanted to see this one, you would put Central American Solidarity LA Network collection, right? Same collection, we see it up here. Then say you're looking, this tells you how the collection is organized, what types of materials are there. And then this is the container list, because all of these archives live in boxes. And they're organized in the box. So you see box number 1. So these collections or these materials are physically in order this way. So if you were gonna look for, so you know, series 1, and series are just categories of how the collection is organized. So we organized all the publications together. And then we created these sub-series, which is subcategories of these publications. So there's bulletins, and then you see the whole listing in alphabetical order, right? And then there's a sub-series B, then we got also newsletters. So it's like further divided. And then it's like, again, alphabetical order of all the newsletters. And then we have oversized publications. So these are like larger publications, could be like newspapers. And they're on box 4. And then box 5, we have magazines and zines. So these all fall under the umbrella of publications. So if you were interested in box number 4, box number 5, you would enter that here. Just like that. And you would enter all of the ones that you want to see within the collection. And that's how it works. And then same thing, if you found like a rare book on one search with the call number, you would enter that on there too. But that's how it works to look for finding aids. Finding is a little more complicated, but we're working on making it more user-friendly for students to use because we're integrating another system. But right now, this is how you can search through our finding aids. Does that make sense?
It does. And I really liked how in the drop-down menu, you can kind of see visually all of the different kinds of archives and collections. Like I saw one that said like Peruvian textiles. So
Oh yeah,
realize
yeah.
that's also a type of primary source thing, right?
Yeah.
Like textiles. Oh, cool. Yeah.
And we also have other collections in this. They're just not fully made available because they're not completely processed in boxes and things. So that's why it's always good to ask if we have collections on something. But yeah, so yeah, the drop-down menu has them all listed here. And it's the same listing you would find how I went here. You know, same listing you would find on our website. So it would always coincide. Okay. Is there any other questions? Oh yeah, we have a comic book collection too. Yeah. Okay, so we'll kind of move on because I think we have a little bit of time. I wanted to include this even though you're not in special collections and archives. Usually when I do these sessions, they're in person and they're hands-on, but these are the regular guidelines that you fill out when you come to special collections and archives because the materials are rare and unique. And so we have specific guidelines that we have every researcher come in, or student or anyone abide by when they come in because you're handling, unique materials. They're one of a kind, they're highly collectible, they're like, think of museum materials. So we want to make sure that we preserve them and we keep them in there, preserve them as best we can for future research use. So these are some reading room guidelines, and our reading room is a space that you get to do research with our collections in. And so most of our collections, because you can't check them out, you can only look at them in the reading room. And then we ask that your hands are clean and dry. So when you're handling materials, so like I always use this example. So like if you were just eating Cheetos, we want to make sure that your hands are clean and dry, right? Because you know how in Cheetos, the like a residue of the Cheetos gets on your hands and fingertips. So you don't want to be holding a rare book with those, right? With that. So we ask that your hands are clean and dry. So that way we don't cause any potential damage to the materials. And then we don't allow food or beverages, again, because we have rare and unique materials. So you could spill, your bottle of water or coffee on a rare book or one of a kind photo. So we have a designated area where you can keep your beverages and coffee. So you can have it, bring it with you, but we keep it in your designated area. And then like you can take a break and go and drink it and then come back, wash your hands, and then go ahead and do your research. So yes. Would it would alter history? Did these people who held these books originally? Yeah. So if they originally had Cheetos in their hands, like that would be part of the history, but like, yeah. And then we only use pencil only. So if you don't have a pencil, we also provide pencils in the reading room for you to use. And then we also have lockers where you can keep your personal belongings, like your backpacks and coats in the lockers, so that you have just the things that you need, like your laptops, your cell phones, and personal devices, so you can do your research. So that's all available in the reading room for you to use. And then when you're handling like a box of materials, we ask that you remove one folder at a time. And then we'll go over this with you when it's your first time, so you kind of get familiar with it. And then you make sure to turn pages gently and keep documents flat on the table. And then keep items in order, because if you noticed on the finding aids, they're in order to make sure that you're able to find what you need. So we want to keep them in the same order when we return them. And then we use gloves sometimes too, but only when we're handling photographic materials. So like negatives and photographs. So why do you think we only use gloves for photographs and negatives versus, you know, rare books? Is there any thoughts? Yeah, fingerprints. Because even if your hands are clean and dry, you can still put fingerprints in the negatives or film or the glossy surface of a photo. So that's why we use gloves. And then you can take photographs and scans of things. So cameras can be used with your phone. You can take scans of it with your phone. And then you can use it later when you go home for studying. We just ask that you don't use any flash. And then personal research. So yeah, when you take copies of things, it's for your own personal research and study. If you're going to publish this for, like, say you're writing an article or like you're working on your thesis and you're going to publish one of these images in them, we ask that you ask permission. So there's a form that you fill out. So you can always ask about that. And then we also scan materials for you up to 20 pages at no charge. And then after that, we do charge a fee. But honestly, you can get better images with your phone. And we also have a scanner in the reading room that you can use as well if you want to, that's available for you to use. So you have various options. I think we're almost done. And I did want to do a little activity, and maybe we can go a little bit since we have almost like maybe 14 minutes left. And I do want to, if you have any questions, feel free to ask as we go. So like I'm here for you. So whatever you all want to work on or ask, feel free. But I did want to do a little sample of what it means to analyze a primary source. And analyzing a primary source, like the documents, posters, and things that we talked about, is the ability to demonstrate an understanding of the elements that contributed to the creation of the historical source. And it answers the question, why does this exist in its current form? So these are the things that to look for when you're doing a primary source analysis. And it's a good way to approach things that, like, you might not know the historical context or the background. So you kind of break it down very simple elements. So you look to see if the source that you're looking at has the title. What is the type? So is it a photo? Is it a poster? Who's the creator? Can you tell who the author is or the artist, right? Depending on the item. And what do you know about the creator that may have shaped the perspective? Who is the intended audience? So if it's a poster, who's the audience? Or if it's a photograph, like, who do you think is the audience? And then where and when was the primary source published or created? And honestly, when you're working through this primary source analysis guide, it's just what you're thinking about. It's not, there's no right or wrong. It's just jotting down your thoughts. So you can it's like scratching the surface, right? And then you're going to dig deeper later on. And then where and when was this primary source published? So is there a date? And describe the historical context. So do you know what's happening, you know, based on maybe other classes that you've had of what was happening during this specific time period, if you have a date, that can give you a little bit more background. And then other things to keep in mind when you're looking at a primary source is observe. So what do you observe? Consider the images, people, objects, activities, words, phrases, facts, and numbers that you see, but also think of your 5 senses. Think about, like, touching the paper. So look beyond, it's not just what you see. It's like, you know, the paper, it's what it smells like. So everybody always talks about, like, the rare book smell. And there's always like candles where it says like rare books where they sell now. And I probably know that because I'm an archivist, but these sell candles that have like a book smell. And so I'm putting this in there because I want you to think about, like, beyond just what you see, like thinking about like what you can feel, what you touch, those types of things, what you can smell, and then explain. So what is the meaning of the objects, words, or symbols that you see? And try to explain, how does it make sense? Connect the dots and jot those things down. And then infer, so is there a specific message or argument that you can see? What is a sentiment, attitude, or feeling do you think the creator is trying to convey through the source? What, based on the source, can you infer about the historical event or time? Like, does this item seem sad? Does it seem happy? Is it, you know, like, what's the feeling that you get from it? And then wonder. So this is where you can think about like, what makes you curious about this particular item? What questions do you still have? What do you want to find out more about? And those could lead you to figuring like a thesis for your paper, you know what I mean? To writing something and that you can dig deeper in. So yeah, so primary sources, these are the guidelines that can help guide you analyze something when you first see it and you have no clue like where to start. Break it down into very simple things and then kind of dig deeper as you go. And then what you jot down, that could be used later on to come and talk to your liaison librarian, to kind of figure out other sources to give you more information. Or you can use those as well to do your own search, right? If you want to be like, oh, I want to figure out what this is. And then after, if you still need more assistance, and you can always reach out to a librarian for that. And then, so the activity is, I know we have 10 minutes, so I just wanted to show you really quick. So this is a poster, and I want to see if we can do a quick primary source analysis. So let's break it down very simply, right? What's the title? Do you think this poster has a title? Or this item has a title? If so, what is it? If you can type it or say it.
Urban theater?
Yeah, okay. You know, it looks like it has urban theater, so Teatro Urbano, and presents a new Chicano production. That could all be the title. And then it has on the bottom more text, right? The Silver Dollar, a play about yesterday, a play about today and yesterday. So yeah, all of that can be your title. And then what about type? What is this? Is it a letter? Is it what do you think it is? I know it's hard since it's a digital item to figure out, but what do you think it is?
It looks like an advertisement for a play.
Yeah, an advertisement, a poster, exactly. Do we have a creator? Do we know who the artist is? Maybe? Can you tell? What do you think? Limon. Yes.
Limon, yeah.
Yeah, right at the bottom. So like all of these things you're jotting down, right? You have an artist, you got the title. What about the audience? Who do you think is the audience for this? We already know it's kind of an advertisement, a poster.
The Chicano Hispanic community?
Yeah. What about the date? Do we see a date on there?
1979, I think.
Yes, 1979. So now let's think about, we know the date. Let's think about historical context. So what do you think is happening in 1979? I know that's harder and you might have to like Google things, and that's okay to use Google to kind of decipher things, and you can use it now.
I'm thinking war, some type of war. I'm not sure.
Vietnam, maybe? Right? Also too, this is a play. Okay, so I think you're kind of getting, you can look also in Google to see what's going on in the 70s, right? And then let's observe some of this. So let's look at the imagery. What do you observe? What's happening? What does it look like?
I think the bottom is like the representation of the murder of journalist Ruben Salazar. I feel like that's a very specific image that they're trying to input.
Yeah, see, you already knew historical context about who Ruben Salazar was, right? So that's perfect. So yes, it's about Ruben Salazar. How did you know it was about Ruben Salazar? I'm just curious.
I'm a Chicano studies major, so I've heard about this story so many times. I was able to recognize it immediately.
Perfect. See, so you already have, based on being a Chicano member, from a Chicano studies student, understanding the historical context, you're able to piece that together. I think also, even if you weren't, you'd be able to search keyword things like the silver dollar or a play, and be able to deduce that this is, and find out, oh, Ruben Salazar. And that might lead you to the Chicano moratorium, which was a protest in 1970 that was supposed to be peaceful, and it was against the Vietnam War. And that's where Ruben, and it got violent, and that's where Ruben Salazar lost his life, right? So if we know, oh yeah, and oh yes, and then I see Letty, you put the palm trees. Yeah, there's a lot of imagery going here. Palm trees is very LA. So there's a lot of things that we're already looking at where we're explaining. We can infer. Also, there might be a vibe this is giving. Like, is it happy? Is it sad? It's kind of deep, dark, you know? And then what do you wonder about it? So jotting down those questions. And then if you know the story about Ruben Salazar, so he lost his life at the bar called the Silver Dollar. And then he lost his life because the police shot a gas can in there. And then there's a lot of imagery that you can see. So like, you know, who's the person with the angel wings, but they're the police shooting the gas can. I've also seen students also say, because I've used this for other observations. So you see the little circle around Ruben Salazar, that it's like a target, or it could be like kind of like angel. You know how you see in certain like religious paintings and things, like a halo over someone. But all of this you can use this poster, say, for kind of figuring out more information and give it historical context. This is also Ruben Salazar lost his life in the Chicano moratorium. This is created in 1979, 9 years later, inspired by that, right? But yeah, you can take a lot of the stuff of the imagery, the snakes, the angel, the kind of devil angel at the top, you know, so like there's a lot that you can do with this with primary source analysis. And some of you already have information with you that right away you can already tell what's happening or the historical context. But even if you don't, you can tell some things happening, right? Like there's somebody that got shot, you know, looks like at a bar. Like you can kind of start to figure out and piece together the story. But yeah, is there any questions? I think we have 4 more minutes, but I just wanted to walk you through the process and do a quick analysis of something so you can see kind of how it plays out during the primary source analysis.
Azalea, thank you so much for showing us this awesome image. And I just had a question about, like, we have this image, right? And
yeah, this is a poster in our collection in the Jose Figueroa collection. Yeah, it's part of the East LA archives.
Okay. And do we have more posters or more?
Yeah, yeah, we have. So if you see in the East LA archives, there isn't like a poster collection, but in the East LA archives, there's different like Gloria Arianes papers, Carlos Montes papers, I think Jose Figueroa collection, which has documents and posters. So if you saw in the finding aids how they're kind of organized by format, you'll find a section on posters and you can request the box. But yeah, they're in, if it's helpful, I can show you how to find that on the finding aid. So like if we go to here, right? And then I said that poster is in Jose Figueroa. So we can see he's right here, right? Jose Figueroa collection, additional collection guides. I'm going to click on that. Remember, we have to click on additional collection guides. There you go. And here you click on the finding aid. And then it's going to pull it up because I want to show you where it's listed. So you can see kind of how that works. And then I'm going to pull up the finding aid. So this looks similar format like the other one, right? All of our finding aids are going to have the same format. So see the series, there's newspapers. So we're going to go all the way to posters. And that Ruben Salazar one should be listed here somewhere. But these are listing of all our posters in his collection. So we have stuff on, we have a poster on self-help graphics. Here it is, right? Teatro Urbano presents a new Chicano protection, the Silver Dollar. So that's how you would request this box, right? If you wanted to see that particular poster. Yeah.
What if a student had a question, just something like, oh, I know that there's like really cool images in this archive, but I don't really know what they are. That would be okay for a research consultation kind of question.
Yeah, so like if you know we have posters and you don't really know where to start, a research consultation is I can show you how to navigate and we can pull up collections and then yeah, that's a good way to, yeah, you can ask for a research consultation. If you know we have posters, but you don't remember how to search or whatever, yeah, you can always request a research consultation. Yeah. Is there any questions? Other questions? Here, let me stop my share.
Maybe one last question. You don't have to be a student like in a class that they assigned us to go like to special collection. You could just be a regular, like an ordinary.
You could just come by and and stop by. If you looked at something, and it doesn't even have to be for your research. If you're like, oh, I just want to see that poster, or I want to know what you have, you can always stop by and ask us. You can always request an item. It doesn't have to be for a course assignment. It doesn't have to be if you came in with a class. Anyone is welcome. Everyone is welcome in our special collections and archives. The public, we're open to the public too, so anyone can come and use our collections. So yeah, feel free to even stop by and check out some of our exhibits, which have our collections, or ask our student assistants at the front desk. They're more than happy to give you information about what we have, and help you pull something. So yeah, we're open for anyone who'd like to come in and use our collections or our space.